Welcome back to CBS Mornings. Our series Protecting the Planet is investigating how climate change is straining our insurance system. Some say it's being driven to the brink of collapse. We just mentioned there have been a record 23 extreme weather events in the U.S. this year, each causing at least $1 billion in damage. That's billion with a B. First on CBS Mornings, alarming new data show how disasters are making home insurance unaffordable and in many cases almost impossible to get. Senior national and environmental correspondent Ben Tracy is here with us with more. Ben, good morning.
Adriana, good morning. You know, scientists say that climate change is fueling this pileup of more intense disasters, and that's causing a reckoning for insurance companies that also face higher costs to rebuild homes due to inflation. They're now either jacking up premiums for disaster coverage or pulling out altogether in places where the risks are now just too high.
I love the trees. It's green. It smells wonderful.
When Mary Morse looks at the groves of trees surrounding her home, she sees the reason she moved to this Southern California mountain town 17 years ago.
It's just a magical place to live.
But when her insurance company looked at those very same trees, it saw fuel for a potential wildfire.
I got a letter from my insurance company that said we're not going to serve your area anymore.
They're basically dropping you.
Yep. I even sent him a picture of my fire hydrant. Didn't help.
Wildfire is now the fastest growing natural disaster in the U.S. A new report from First Street Foundation, a nonprofit that studies climate risks, says the average number of acres burned each year has jumped 68% in the last decade, destroying more than 17,000 buildings. In the next 30 years, that's expected to nearly double to almost 34,000, on average burning down the equivalent of Asheville, North Carolina, and causing $24 billion in damages each year.
I've covered a lot of wildfires, and your neighborhood looks like a lot of the places I've been.
I know.
How much do you think about this?
Everybody on this hill thinks about it. A lot. We kind of hold our breath until it snows.
In California, where state regulations prevent insurance companies from rapidly raising premiums, several are no longer writing new policies or pulling out of the market completely. Some of the highest risk zip codes have seen a nearly 800% increase in policies not being renewed.
They're looking at it and saying, listen, we've done the math. We can't underwrite policies that we know we're going to lose money on.
Matthew Eby is the CEO of First Street Foundation. Its report warns that America's climate insurance bubble could soon pop as high-risk properties are dropped by private insurers and pushed to more expensive state-created plans, known as the insurers of last resort. There are now 6.7 million properties on these plans nationwide.
So the insurer of last resort has this concentration of risk into levels that no one's really seen before.
So you're now paying $19.47 a year.
Correct. And I'm afraid it's going to go up more.
Morse is on California's so-called FAIR Plan. Her premiums have more than doubled, and her home is one more risk this insurance pool is taking on.
Are we one strategically placed hurricane or one massive megafire away from some of these state-backed plans collapsing?
Absolutely. All it takes is one big event in a high concentrated area, and you will see financial collapse of those programs.
Several private insurers are also pulling out of hurricane-prone Florida. Its state-created plan, called Citizens, is now the largest insurer in the market, with nearly 1.4 million high-risk properties. Insurance premiums in Florida are the highest in the nation, averaging $6,000 a year.
I hate to say it, but it is legalized extortion.
Jack Anderson and his husband Kevin live in Key West. Island life is idyllic until a hurricane heads their way.
How often do you think about the probability of a major storm hitting here?
I'm not going to lie, every year. As soon as June 1st comes around, it's like we keep the car full of gas.
They were facing $8,000 a year in premiums for wind and flood coverage required by the mortgage on their modest home.
It would never get better. It would only go up. There's no way it would ever get better.
So they took the drastic step of paying off their mortgage, allowing them to drop the insurance. Their home is now unprotected from hurricanes, but instead of paying premiums, they're saving that money for a very rainy day.
Do you mind if I ask how much did you put towards paying that off?
Just over $250,000.
That's a big chunk of change.
It's a big chunk of change. Yeah. Just At every level financially, it made sense for us. Like, what level of risk can you live with, I guess is really what it comes down to.
Now, Florida lawmakers have passed a flurry of new bills trying to stabilize the insurance market there, but it's not clear if that's going to work. As properties in high-risk areas all over the country become more expensive to insure, that ultimately lowers their value, and that makes them harder to sell. And that's where homeowners are now in this bind.
Yeah, they're in a tough bind.
Shouldn't the state insurance offers be lower, be subsidized?
You would think so, but they're trying not to use taxpayer money to prop those up. So you basically have people who have no other choice being put into those plans. You get inferior coverage for more money.
Yeah, to hear it described as legalized extortion and then hearing the details, you can only imagine what they're going through on a yearly basis.
And the bottom line is people are going to continue to want to live by the shore, want to live on beautiful bluffs, areas that have picturesque, gorgeous nature. And
Florida's the fastest growing state in the country.
yeah, there you go. Ben, very eye-opening report. Thank you very much for being here. Great to see you in person.
Good to see you guys,
Good to see you.